I don't know why I had such a fascination with Xbox Live Arcade. Maybe because I was broke and these were like the new shiny games, not these bargain bin games I scrounge from every time I get money from cutting grass. The Xbox Live Arcade was a momentous time in gaming. Before this service, you would only go online to play your disc-based games with friends and maybe send a message or two. Now I could download a full game and play it without the disc. It only exploded once Party Chat was introduced to Xbox Live. Now I can be playing a different game with my friends and they could tell me, yo, hop on this game. And with the press of 3 buttons, I can launch it and be right in the lobby ready to go. It's surprising that my mom would let her 10-year-old child hop online and talk with strangers. It was either Xbox Live with kids from school and the random 24-year-old in the Halo Zombies lobbies, or the wonderful world of message boards. There wasn't a day that went by that I didn't turn that white block on and listen to that ever so refreshing startup animation. Plugging in that cheap $4 plastic headset, I would hop into the party and talk with school friends about pretty much everything, all while we waited for somebody to finish using the bathroom or selecting the next game. I would just browse the Xbox Live Arcade marketplace. I'm thankful for my experience with Xbox Live Arcade, which expanded my palette during my very impressionable time. I could have been sucked into the Call of Duty vortex and not been here to talk to you about these games today. It gave rise to a bunch of games that became iconic like Castle Crashers, and also help younger generations such as myself get into games we'd otherwise not have access to. Titles like Jet Set Radio, Doom, Don't Judge Me, Guardian Heroes, Comic Jumper, and Castlevania Symphony of the Night to name a few. A lot of games were bite-sized, more stylized approaches to contemporary genres that allowed for freedom, especially for gamers like me to explore. Plus, nothing beats that feeling of getting a Microsoft points card and buying something that wasn't bad. I still want my money back for Dead Block. That all being said, I wanted to highlight some Xbox Live Arcade games that I played as a kid, so without further ado, let's get started with a bang! Now this is a perfect game to describe what Xbox Live Arcade can bring to gaming. This is such a chaotic game, and if the name doesn't give it away, you explode. A lot. This is actually a puzzle platformer. I'm going to name Splosion Man Doug to make this easier to say without saying Explosion Man every 30 seconds. So my boy Doug here, right? He explodes up to 3 times the wall jump, destroy obstacles, and fight off killer robots as he tries to escape a super research facility. This was a time where everything was going Hollywood with big blockbuster Michael Bay explosions and set pieces. Everything had shiny HD graphics, but this game had none of that. The story is in a side menu, sidebar. That was also the coolest thing with like every game for some reason having like help and options as a menu option and having like the full manual built into the game. I always loved that. The puzzle aspect comes in the form of this not being a run from one place to the goalpost kind of platformer. Here there's a lot of times where you have to stop and assess the situation and use the environment to propel, boost, and maneuver around. They'll shut down walls and you'll have to blow yourself over them to vents to kill the scientist blocking the door, or using red barrels to boost your triple jump over large barrels. I enjoy platformers like this compared to the test of skill platformers because, well, I ain't got no skill, I'm sorry boss. I remember playing this game for hours trying to get past certain levels, but it's super rewarding because you can just drop a bomb on them. This is one of the few games that is still exclusive to Xbox Live Arcade and even got a sequel, Splosion Man, that was more or less the same game except now you're pink and skip around instead of frantically running. The sequel also added more gadgets and gameplay elements that help it stand out and feel more like an evolution of the first game. But frankly, it's more of the same. The misses can slide on rails, use cannons, and selectively use ice to help get across certain gaps. Fun fact, Splosion Man was ported to the Switch, but not the first one, which is weird, but I'm not going to ask questions. If you got the time, go ahead and pick this game up on Switch. It's a good on-the-go kind of game. Speaking of on-the-go, we have a port of a PSP game with a lot more features. Half-Minute Hero Super Mega Neo... I can't even say this shit with a straight face, hold on. Half-Minute Hero Super Neo Mega Climax, yes you have to say the whole name really fast, is an entire retro-style JRPG done in 30 seconds. Yes, the entire game. The game is broken up into mini levels where you have 30 seconds to gear up, level up, and complete a quest to get to the boss and defeat them. Of course you're wondering, well, how the darn tootin' am I supposed to do this all in 30 seconds? I'm not that fast. That's where the sprint button comes in handy, though it takes 1 HP per tile while you hold it. Wait, that's still not enough time? Well, that's where the time goddess comes in handy. Entering town stops time so you can pay money to reset the timer back to 30 seconds. Be warned because each reset costs more money than the last. The game is pretty expansive too, having about 30 levels or so, each getting bigger and more complex. Certain bosses are not able to be beaten unless you complete certain quests or get certain items that counter their types of attacks, such as the fly swatter that one-hit kills all bug monsters in the game, allowing you to one-shot the insect boss, of course. And the game doesn't stop there. There's Evil Lord mode, which plays more like a real-time strategy where you play as the main antagonist, controlling pawns and pillaging villages. Princess mode, where you play as a shoot 'em up, which you have to complete levels and shoot baddies for loot. Or Night mode, where you have to protect the sage while they cast a spell to get rid of the evil in the land with this action combat kind of style. All these modes have to be also completed in, you guessed it, 30 seconds with time manipulation shenanigans as well. It also has a 3-second and 300-second mode. There's so much content here for just a simple game, and the pixel art style is just... This was such a guilty pleasure of mine on the PSP, and having it on a big screen was something I didn't know I needed until I got it. Explaining the gameplay loop doesn't do the game justice. It's one of those games you gotta play for yourself to experience the fun and the nerve-wracking of the experience. Luckily, the game was ported to Steam with even more content. If you fancy trying this game out, I recommend getting the Steam release when the sale goes on. Usually you can get both this game and the second game, which offers 4-player co-op and an infinite roguelike mode, which fits this game perfectly for like $3 most of the time. Before avatar unlocks were like a thing on Xbox, you had profile picture unlocks, and this was my profile picture on Xbox before it got snapped away from existence, so how I miss you and my gamer score. If you owned an Xbox 360 and didn't have Aegis Wing, I would call you a liar because it was free. In fact, it's still free and backwards compatible with Xbox One and Xbox Series. The game was created by 3 interns in the summer of 2006. The team of mostly college kids had to create most of their own tools to even make the game, and even more incredible, they made the entire thing in just like 3 months. This is a rather simple shoot 'em up with the added joy of 4-player co-op. The selling point of this game was the merge mechanic, and also the fact that it was one of the first free games to ever be released on the platform. This will make one person take control of another person's ship and the other person can shoot in any direction. It's such a simple game, but I think it just goes to show how Xbox Live Arcade opened doors to the mainstream gaming audience to even digest games like this. This was truly an arcade title. If this was a cabinet, this would have been a beloved staple that every weird uncle won't shut the hell up about when you mention video games. There wasn't usually free games that were released on the platform at the time. It's not like today where everything's a free-to-play battle royale. Nah, if you got something for free, it was either a passion project by a bunch of students or a Telltale game. But there was one free game that took the entire Xbox Live community by storm. Doritos Crash Course. What can I not say about this game? Inspired by the Japanese show Sasuke, or better known in the States as Ninja Warrior, Doritos Crash Course is a platforming marvel. This was the game that I alluded to in the intro. This dumbass game where all you do is run from one end of the stage to the other led to so many angry screaming matches in the party. It always started with another game and being like, bro, you suck, you know, the typical arguments, until somebody eventually screams, run the Tokyo levels, and we all hop in and play a couple hours until somebody's mom screams at us to go to bed. The game is rather simple. You can slide, jump, and swing your way to the finish line, dodging obstacles while trying to get the best time possible. The sprint was such a unique mechanic where you could sprint, but not for too long or else you'll fall and lose a lot of valuable time. This was my first experience with leaderboards and speedrunning. Me and my friends would hop on while playing co-op Borderlands or something, and we would just throw on that little, hey bro, you know I got 54 seconds on USA 3. It was just a little challenge to one another to get the best possible score, ignoring the worldwide leaderboards because, you know, hackers. This is sadly one of those games that if you didn't get it at the time, you can no longer get. Even though it did get a sequel and DLC, it just never really stood up to that initial release. Whether it be Aegis Wing, Doritos Crash Course, or even Harm's Way, the free titles of the Xbox Live Arcade were key to bridging the community. No matter how simple the game, it was free, and friends had nothing else to do but to play them with friends, and that was the beauty of Xbox Live. One game I wish I had friends to play with was Hardcorp's Uprising. I just found out that this game is actually a prequel to the first Contra. All these years I would explain this game and be like, yeah, it's anime Contra. And it literally is anime Contra. Developed by Arc System Works. Yes, that Arc System Works. You play as a ragtag group of gunners as you do what you do in Contra. run and shoot. The game added so many different movement abilities like hanging on rails, air dashes, and there's even this like witch time dodge that you can do. The game has this killer design to it too. The patented 3D what looks hand-drawn animation shading of Arc system is here in full strides. The environments feel natural with hills and even having the background come into the foreground to affect the stage throughout. And the way each gun feels, once you get the rhythm of moving along with it, you'll be an unstoppable killing machine. There's two separate modes in the game, Rising and Arcade mode. Rising mode allows you to collect money throughout the levels, which can be used to buy permanent upgrades including new weapons and movement abilities. For Arcade mode, we won't talk about Arcade mode. This is sadly the last good Contra game we will receive to this day. I know a lot of people probably saw this cover art and said, man, I remember scrolling past this game every day. I could not for the life of me remember this game until I was doing research for this video, and then that's when all the nostalgia hit me. A lot of Xbox Live Arcade games, including the ones I've mentioned so far, would have easily been brick and mortar arcade machines. Haha, I know, very funny joke there, pal, but I'm serious. They were bite-sized treats that you could hop in and out at your leisure with the beauty of being easily accessible as downloadable titles. Then there came a time where everything just switched. With the advancements and revampments of consoles after they were just fucking breaking, there was more hard drive space, more power drawn from the machines, and that allowed for the Xbox Live Arcade to evolve from these bite-sized offerings and handheld ports to full-fledged AAA experiences. Dead Rising 2 Case Zero was the first of those games that broke that ground. The first Dead Rising was a guilty pleasure of mine when I first got my Xbox, only because of the amount of zombies on screen. I was looking over at Cody like, come on guys, just copy this please. It was the first game that made me go, yeah bro, this is next gen. I was excited for Dead Rising 2, and out of the blue, Capcom released this game. Bridging the gap between the first game and the upcoming second game, Case Zero felt more like I just bought a $5 demo essentially, or like the first chapter of the game ripped out and sold separately. You could level up, experience a true Dead Rising experience with most of the mechanics of the second game right there for you. This included the weapon crafting that was added to Dead Rising 2. The allure of this game was the fact that it was essentially a glorified paid demo, but it felt like a standalone game. There was only about an hour or two worth of content really before you completed the game, but that didn't stop me from pouring dozens of hours into the game. It really felt like after this point, we started to get ports of more expensive games from major companies. The Sonic Adventure ports, Virtua Fighter 5, Minecraft, CSGO, and Far Cry 3 Blood Dragon come to mind. They even did it again after the release of Dead Rising 2 with Case West, a co-op epilogue to Dead Rising 2 where you play with your friends as both protagonists. Both games have you dealing with time limits as you fight off hordes of zombies with anything and everything you can grab your hands on. I think the change of scenery does the game wonders being set in a small town compared to a mall. That allowed you to actually feel the scale a little bit more because, let's be honest, it's kind of unrealistic how many zombies poured into that, but I mean to be fair, the mall was really big. Now that I think about it, this is off script, I'm sorry. But that was a big ass mall, like it had fucking labyrinths inside of it, that was kind of crazy. There's a majority of gamers that strictly play the co-op variety of Xbox Live Arcade titles. The most famous of it all is Castle Crashers. Oftentimes it's the first game you think of when you think of Xbox Live Arcade, and I wouldn't blame you for it. It became an overnight success, and it was the first indie game I saw that took the world by storm. There were a bunch of these beat-em-ups on here that seemed like everyone was making one for their Hollywood franchise or porting older beat-em-ups to the service. X-Men and Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles got their arcade titles ported with online co-op. Did you know that there was a Warriors beat-em-up game that was released? I didn't either until I was doing research, but you can't play it, so don't bother looking for it. Watchmen got a duology of games that were playable. Then there was my beloved Scott Pilgrim. This game alone made me watch the upcoming movie at the time, which made me go read the entire series, which made me who I am today. Yes, I'm one of those hopeless Gen Z that got their personality from this series, but I like to say I'm the Wallace of the friend group. But there's one trilogy of games that stood out the most to me and to this day are the best beat-em-ups I've ever played. James Silva is a madman. I first played I Made a Game with zombies in it, and I couldn't put it down. I was looking up GameFAQs forums for the game when I found the rest of his games, well, game at the time, The Dishwasher. Holy shit is this game amazing. I used to browse sites like Armored Games or StickPage, Newgrounds, you know, the regular gauntlet of flash games and animations that you could feast your eyes upon in the early 2000s. I was aware of Castle Crashers and Alien and Hominid and was expecting what I got from those games because I was a regular on those sites at the time of emergence. But I never saw anything so familiar yet so reminiscent of that style of game. It reminded me a lot of the Madness series with the excessive gore, flashy combat, and the emphasis on being metal as fuck. While Castle Crashers you could kinda just mash until you win, the Dishwasher series had you learning combos. You had to learn to parry or else you were not going to beat these games. The game I spent the most time on out of Scott Studios games isn't the Dishwasher though. It was Charlie Murder. You play as, of course, Charlie Murder and his band as they fight Lord Murderer and his legion of demons in a battle of the bands. This game felt like a perfect evolution of the Dishwasher series. Each member of the band represented different character classes along with gear and magic. Anarchy. You could seriously build each of these 5 members 5 different ways. The game is just fun as hell. The art style, the combat, and we cannot forget the music. There's a lot of beauty behind Scott Studios and their partnership with Microsoft. James was doing everything by himself, and for the most part, still does for his newer titles. Michelle was a tester for the first Dishwasher title, and the two would eventually meet at PAX. The two hit it off and started dating. Charlie Murder was the first game they worked on together, with Michelle doing marketing and both working on the art and the soundtrack. The voices you hear in the songs are sung by the two. James would later propose to Michelle at the Charlie Murder booth during a secret in-game cutscene he built for it. Damn. I'm low-key feeling tears right now. You can actually get these games mentioned on Steam except for the first Dishwasher game, as well as his 2 newer titles, Salt and Sanctuary and Salt and Sacrifice, which are just like these games but turned more into a Metroidvania with the same combat feel as the Dishwasher series. You know, I gotta end this video with a stinker. I'm very sorry for this. This game gets the award for getting my hopes up so bad I actually called Microsoft to try to refund this. Amy is a game about Amy. No, not that person. That's Amy. Amy is an 8-year-old autistic child that you must escort out of this kind of futuristic city as shit hits the fan as it does in these survival horror games. I honestly forgot what the name of the main woman is, and it doesn't matter as Amy has powers, and not only do you have to fight off zombie monster thingies, but also, of course, we're escaping from this evil pharmaceutical company. Developed by Vector Cell, this and the Flashback remake that you didn't know existed until right now are the only cause of fame before filing for bankruptcy. I thought this was made by the Hydrophobia people when I bought this game because, well, Hydrophobia is a good game and survival horror games can't really be that bad, especially in the bite-sized treats that Xbox Live Arcade allowed. Amy is a bad game though. What's even worse is that the game can easily be beaten in less than 2 hours. For a game that's a constant escort mission, that's a pretty short runtime. The game just feels clunky in a way where it's just hard to see from the footage I'm showing, but like sluggish animation. It has this pseudo tank control scheme as well as this dedicated hold hand button that's mapped to the same button as sprinting, which leads to some weird interactions. There's a lot of environmental puzzles that involve the titular character going into nooks and crannies and overall weird shit like, how the fuck does this little girl know how to hack computers? I don't know if this is like really scary per se, nor did I do anything outside of that wheelhouse, but I've always been an advocate for 5 out of 10 games being perfectly okay because that's average and average can still be fun. But Amy is not average. And if it isn't the overall bugs or the choppy animations and controls, it's the choppy frame rate and muddy visuals. There was this dark age in the 7th generation of consoles where everything was just dark and muddy. If you weren't starving for contrast, you were oversaturated with dirt and sandy browns. And God hope you didn't care about frame rates. There was a shift during this generation where frame rates started to come into question, and this game was the wake-up call for me. At release, this game was acting like the Xbox 360 was a Commodore 64 with this frame rate hitting yummy single digits for like less than stellar gameplay. And you can see why the then respected IGN gave this the same score as God Hand. But what was your favorite Xbox Live Arcade game? This was a list dedicated to the games that I had memories growing up with, but that's what the comments section is for. Let me know your favorite or forgotten Xbox Live Arcade titles and I might make a part 2. Here at Back of the Rack, we might even cover it on a future episode. There are a couple more titles that I want to cover, but I'm saving that for another video about extinct and dislisted video games and the obligatory look at, of course, PlayStation Network games. If this is your first time here, this is Back of the Rack, a channel where we host a podcast talking about games long neglected and not respected. So if that interests you, please take a look at this episode where we talk about Chorokyu, the car RPG. Why this episode in game? I don't know, bro. Just click it or, I'm Sondi, and from time to time, I select a game or a topic that I feel like needs more spotlight on it. If you have anything that you feel that we would enjoy, you can leave a comment in below and be like, hey, why don't you talk about Dragon Quarter, Breath of Fire, or whatever in the comments? And of course, we'll always be there. This is once again signing out, and I hope you have a tubular day, dude. Have a good one.